The Wild Update. Minecraft 1.19 came to us at an interesting point in Minecraft's history, just after one of the most game-changing updates ever and introducing a plethora of new features which have been equal parts fascinating, unexpected, and controversial. Today I'm going to critique this update. Now, I realise I'm late to the discussion table, it's been a while since the update dropped, but that's intentional. Now that we've had time to see the community response to the update's final version, I think now is the only point at which I can accurately critique it. With the next update announcement just around the corner, this video is almost a do and don't guide to making a Minecraft update. I'm going to try and answer three main questions. Number 1, was the content in this update good, bad, or somewhere in the middle? Number 2, did this update achieve its goal? And number 3, what are the next steps that the developers need to take to use this update as a stepping stone and to improve Minecraft further? My name is MagmaMelon, and today we'll be critiquing the Wild Update. Before we begin, a quick notice. I know you'll be sick of hearing this all across YouTube, but this video was a lot of work to make, and so if you do enjoy it, I'd massively appreciate it if you subscribed and shared the video with your friends. Now, let's start by answering our first question. Was the content in this update good, bad, or somewhere in the middle? The Wild Update is very much an update of two halves, the above ground stuff and the underground stuff. Agnes even confirmed this when the update was announced at Minecraft Live.
So, the word wild mainly means like two things for us. So the first thing is like beautiful nature, and the second thing is like really scary challenges and adventures.
I want to look at these two groups separately. First of all, let's talk about the underground stuff this update. Everything underground in 1.19 is fantastic. The word I would use to describe it is unbelievable. The Deep Dark is the centerpiece of this, of course, and boy, if you had told me even 2 years ago that Minecraft was going to be adding stuff like this, I would have thought you were mad. The Deep Dark is fantastic for one main reason. It's very interconnected. A bit like the Nether in 1.16, there was a clear effort to make the Deep Dark feel like an ecosystem. But MagmaMelon, aren't all biomes ecosystems? Isn't the plains, or the Mushroom Island, or the sparse jungle an ecosystem? Well, no, not really. Let's take the 1.16 Nether as an example of an ecosystem. That update introduced piglins. Now, if this was a normal, passable update, they would have made the piglins just another mob. But no, the devs made the piglins part of the Nether ecosystem. So, piglins love gold. That ties in with gold being added as ore in the Nether. The piglins need somewhere to live, let's add the bastions with tons of treasure. We could use a unique enchantment for those, how about soul speed, and a biome that actually makes it useful. The bastions should also be made of a cool material. Oh, I know what, let's add blackstone. Now we need a place to find blackstone naturally, how about the basalt delta? The piglins also need something to hunt for food, let's add hoglins. Wait, we need somewhere for the hoglins to live, let's make the crimson forest. You know what would be cool? An opposite to the Crimson Forest. How about the Warped Forest? And let's make the hoglins scared of the stuff that grows there. Linking back to older features, let's make wither skeletons and piglins hate each other. And now we're back at piglins. Closed loop. Do you see what I mean? The piglins weren't just a random mob which spawned in certain biomes. They were a race, a civilization, that made the world feel much older than you, much more lived in, and much more immersive. They fitted and linked into everything around them like a key in a lock. The reason the Deep Dark is great is because it's a bit like this. The ancient city, for example, has wool block walkways, which prevent signals from travelling out to Skulk sensors as much, teaching players who pay attention about the mechanics. The whole Skulk family idea was a good one, because it made these blocks with very different functions connected. It almost feels like a real biological family. But MagmaMelon, there's nothing like Skulk in real life. Well, yes. But that's actually another reason that the concept of Skulk is fantastic. It feels completely alien, very fantastical. It's on the same level as piglins and illagers because of that. When you think about it, most of Minecraft's best ideas are their original ones. The Warden. The Warden itself is terrifying, and more importantly, it's a real first for the game. It's the first blind mob, it's the first mob which literally climbs out of the freaking ground when summoned, and it's also the first mob which you aren't really supposed to kill. It doesn't drop anything much other than a catalyst, and this is actually really good. It means that you're trying to avoid it at all costs, which is really unique and not something we see elsewhere in Minecraft, other than perhaps piglin brutes. Swift Sneak is also a useful enchantment for evading the Warden, and it's really good to have our first legging specific enchantment too. Also, side note, the sound design of the Deep Dark is something I really admire. The horrible shrieks, breaths, and uncomfortable ambience just adds to the Lovecraftian horror theme that the team at Mojang did so well here. Sound effects are a massive part of Minecraft. I mean, think about it, there are so many iconic Minecraft noises. The creeper views, cave sounds, even just walking on grass. The Deep Dark has some great ambience, and it adds to the experience so much. So that underground stuff is all fantastic, but there are two more subterranean things we need to cover. First of all, this strange portal-like structure at the center of ancient cities. Now, I love the variation that the ancient cities have, but this portal thing is a constant in all of them, although it too has a couple of different shapes. The mystery surrounding this place is palpable. So far, I've seen two main theories, that it's a portal to another dimension or a fast travel system. I think both of these ideas could be great or terrible depending on how they're handled, but we'll get to that in a later section. For now, I want to talk about the redstone rooms underneath the portal. These rooms, and I cannot stress this enough, are such a good idea. One of my favourite things about the new Minecraft updates is this emphasis on subtly teaching players different mechanics. Again, we see it in the Nether update. Ruined portals imply the existence of the Nether. Well, here, these rooms teach players about some redstone mechanics that, while not incredibly complex, aren't so beginner that your average player will know about them. Now, I'm terrible at redstone, but I can appreciate these rooms because they represent something. They show us that Mojang are becoming experts at show, don't tell. Another example of this in the ancient cities I've already mentioned, the wool pathways. If you're paying attention, you'll realize wool can limit skulk signals, and you can use this to your advantage in both exploring and redstone. The game rewards you for being immersed. The final underground thing to talk about is something I feel could have been done better: the ancient city loot. The addition of whatever is through the portal might change this, but I still don't feel there's enough incentive to go to ancient cities. Echo shards and recovery compasses are cool and genuinely useful items, but that's the problem. They're the only thing to get here, other than decoration blocks and armor that isn't useful when you're already in the endgame. That's why the portal needs to be a good reward. The Deep Dark is terrifying and a massive risk, one of the most challenging things we've had in Minecraft since, well, maybe ever. And when you go to it, you get a funky compass and some enchanted armor. It doesn't cut it for me. But that sin is relatively small compared to some that we'll discuss now. Let's move to the above ground section. The above ground features of 1.19 are features I would describe as untapped. Now, I don't mean bad. None of these features are bad. But in my opinion, there was a lot more that could have been done with them. They had unrealized potential. Let's start with the allay. The allay is good, and it was the mob I wanted to win the vote. I think there's a good bit less controversy this year than there was with the Phantom and the Glow Squid, so I'm thankful for that at least. The allay's concept is fantastic, and I love the way they look. My only problem is how they fit in gameplay-wise. Specifically, how we obtain them. Allays only spawn in pillager outpost cages and woodland mansion prisons. Now, you could probably guess the issue I have with this. Allays aren't reliable. Woodland mansions are ridiculously rare, and only some have prisons. Pillager outposts are a bit better, but if you want any kind of efficiency with farms, then you'll need to visit a good few. And there's still no guarantee that each one will have a cage. That's a long way to travel and back with a mob that needs transporting. I'm not saying I want allays to be super common. Them being rare is not the problem. But I also think there's a point where they aren't reliable enough. Adding in some new magical cave biome with allays regularly spawning in it would be a great idea. But we're getting ahead of ourselves again. Let's talk about chest boats. Chest boats are hands down the best above ground feature of this update. I absolutely love the attention that's been given to rivers in both the Caves and Cliffs update and in the Wild update. The rivers are now very viable as a form of transportation, and chest boats only improve this. Thank you, Mojang. Now, swamps, mangroves, frogs, etc. In my opinion, these features are a bit of a mixed bag. Let's start with what I really like. Frogs are really cute and a cool addition. I like their mechanics, and although the colour scheme could perhaps be a little better, the frog lights are a cool new block in some colours that we don't see too often. Side tangent here, but the way that you get frog lights is great when a frog eats a small magma cube. There's something so old school about that, like how you get music discs from a skeleton shooting a creeper. A really nice touch for sure. I also like the way that the mangrove trees generate. They look really cool. And while I don't love the wood as much as, say, spruce or dark oak, I think it's a nice addition, and certainly better than how it was textured when announced. It's like a crimson and spruce hybrid of sorts. And is there anything else I think is great here? I guess I like the way you can grow mangrove trees. That's kind of cool. Tadpoles. Tadpoles are okay, I guess. Yeah, this part of the update has some downsides that I want to talk about. First of all, mud. You are all going to hate me for this, but I think mud is a massive missed potential feature. It's been used by humans since the dawn of time, and when it came to Minecraft, I had high expectations. First of all, though, it has to be said, I don't like the texture. Mud shouldn't look this purple, and then when packed together come out very brown, although I do like wheat having another use, and again, historically accurate. I don't like the way mud looks in particular when it generates up against other biomes. This isn't the most grievous complaint I have about it, but it doesn't help, and a bit of brownifying would do a world of good. My main problem with mud, though, is a massive potential feature that Mojang missed with it. Using it as an adhesive glue. When this was announced at Minecraft Live, that was my first thought. Immediately I thought, oh, it could be an adhesive. And then when they didn't mention it, I was a bit disappointed. A gluey substance in Minecraft is something we could really use. We partially have it in terms of slime and honey blocks, I guess, but I mean that wet mud could hold up gravity blocks, or slowly stick players and mobs to it if they don't move out of it quickly. For an adhesive block, what else are you going to use which fits Minecraft's theme except for mud? Maybe tar, I guess? Outside of slow and inefficient renewable clay, which you have tons of due to the lush caves now, there is basically no use for this block outside of decoration. And now that we're back onto decoration, we're back onto the fact that it doesn't even look like mud. I like mud bricks, though. Secondly, I wish mangrove swamps were a bit more accessible by boat. It would be way cooler to move your boat skillfully through the roots and look up above you and see the canopy of trees. It would really help immerse you. However, moving through the mangrove swamp in a boat right now is very tedious. There's tons of stuff to crash into, and long extended waterways aren't that common. So that's another nitpick. Thirdly, finally, and most majorly in my list of grievances, removed features. This is the thing I am angry about in this update, and it even goes past just swamp biomes. Fireflies, for example, were removed after being announced at Minecraft Live. Why? Was it because they had no gameplay potential? No, it was because frogs don't eat them in real life, and Minecraft wanted to be educational and not to mislead its audience. That is ridiculous. First of all, since when has Minecraft been an educational game above an interesting game? I think that making this decision reflects a bit of an identity crisis at the heart of the game. Do they take Minecraft in the more fantastical, but arguably much more interesting direction, or do they stick to real life to prevent the chances of some kid wandering out into wildlife, finding a frog, and trying to stuff fireflies down his throat? I am angry at this because there was so much fireflies could do. Number 1, give the biome some life. This is the wild update, for goodness sake. Number 2, make it so that we can capture fireflies in a bottle. A different number of fireflies leads to a different light level. There are uses here. It's just Mojang holding back on what they're capable of. Fireflies aren't the only removed features. Birch Forest revamp, gone. Again, this is the wild update, not the Deep Dark plus Swamp update. Bundles as well. I don't have such a problem with their absence, because I appreciate they are difficult to get right, and to be honest, I don't particularly want them in their current form, but even so, there were too many removed features here. Mojang should have taken a bit more time, made us wait a little longer, and perhaps get a little more frustrated, and made the wild update just a bit more wild. You cannot show a birch forest like this, and leave us with this. Spot the difference? Another problem lurks beneath this one though. These features were shown at Minecraft Live. Now, before Mojang pull out the "everything shown at Minecraft Live is subject to change," I want to say something. Minecraft Live is not your brainstorming notebook, Mojang. It's not where you write down potential ideas and then wipe them off a few moments later. Minecraft Live should be treated as a contract, a deposit, a promise. I think everyone understands that some stuff has to be changed. See archaeology in the previous update. Very few people had a problem with that. But what nobody expects is a solid fifth of the content announced to be removed altogether. If you don't think you can add it to the game, don't advertise it as such. Pull up Assault Deltas, don't announce it, and if you can get it done, then release it as a fun surprise. There is a communication issue here. Of course things need to be cut and dropped, but do that on the cutting floor, not on the announcement stage. Mojang are normally quite transparent, so it's worrying to see this breakdown in communication and thought process now. Mojang can do better. Okay, so this is editing MagmaMelon here. There is another problem with this update that we're not going to be addressing today. That's the controversial multiplayer changes that were brought in 1.19.1 and such. Obviously, I don't like those changes. I think most people are aware of them, and nobody likes them. Suffice to say, I think that's poor as well, but let's continue with the video. So those are my problems with this update. So, let's answer our question. Was the content in this update good, bad, or somewhere in between? My answer is this. This update had no bad features, and some of its features, mostly the Deep Dark related ones, were fantastic. However, there were also a fair amount of features that could have been much better, and there were certainly too many that were removed in development with flimsy reasoning. Now, on to our next question. Did this update achieve its goal? In order to find an answer, we need to ask ourselves, what was the goal? The goal of this update is fairly obvious, and I've already said this word a few times. Immersion. What is immersion? Well, I actually think the dictionary puts it quite well. Immersion is a deep mental involvement in something. Minecraft is the ultimate form of escapism for me, and so it's important that I'm as mentally involved as I can be. I don't like playing Minecraft on the side for 15 minutes at a time. What I relish is getting lost in my own world. The Wild update was clearly trying to assist with just that. So, did the Wild update make us more immersed? Well, the answer is yes, absolutely. I think it's interesting that this update didn't bother with game-changing mechanics. The only mechanic that comes close to that is skulk spreading and storing XP when a mob dies near it. Even that isn't revolutionary exactly, not in the same way the 1.9 combat changes were, or the hunger bar was, or even in the same way bartering was just a couple of years ago. The Wild update instead focused on player experience. In some cases it failed, such as the mangrove swamp boat travelling issue thing I mentioned earlier, or the fact that fireflies and birch forests, perhaps great tools for immersion, were held back on. That said, this update managed to make the player experience both surreal and grounded. Although it could arguably have been much better, the immersion is still good. Of course, I'm mostly talking about the Deep Dark here. I think that might be a reason I prefer the underground stuff. The above ground section of the update was adding cool individual features, mobs, blocks, chest boats. But the Deep Dark was focused on overarching experience and the risks that come with it. I say this tentatively because it's kind of embarrassing, but I'm actually kind of scared of the Deep Dark. Not petrified, I love going to it, but it unsettles me. It comes across as un-Minecrafty, not in a bad way though. It's like a familiar world that you've found comfort and happiness in has been infected by a seed of darkness and fear, like a jot of ink on a clear piece of paper. The Deep Dark feels like such a stain on the world, and that's why it immerses me so much. Remember what I said about the piglins at the beginning? Minecraft is always at its strongest when it feels like a world that is much older than you. That's probably why we find it so good for escapism. It reminds us of how young we are in our world's great history. The above ground features are less immersive in my opinion, but they help the game by just making it a bit more vibrant. It would be an even more positive story with fireflies and the birch forest revamp, but I really need to stop harping on about that. I don't think Minecraft will ever feel full. There are still infinite possibilities for new items and even dimensions, and these features now give us more to do, a greater palette to work with, and ultimately, make Minecraft better. So although we've seen that I have my gripes with some features in this update, and don't feel it's on the same par as 1.16 or 1.18, I still think this update achieved its goal. The Wild update made Minecraft more immersive. So we've talked a lot about 1.19, and we've come to the conclusion that it was a good update. A flawed update, it had problems, but those problems were really quite small compared to all the great features. But I think one thing that update review videos don't do enough is talk about the future. How can Mojang use this update as a stepping stone and consolidate it later on? I'd love to make a video one day outlining lots of ideas I have for Minecraft, but for today, we'll restrict ourselves to improving and adding to the 1.19 features. First of all, a very small change. When in a boat, I think a player should be slowed down but still able to travel through mangrove routes, a bit like with Soul Sand. This allows for easier traversal of mangrove swamps and buffs the boat a bit more, which it seems like Mojang have been keen on doing over the years. Secondly, I think we need more cave biomes. I really don't want the Deep Dark to be the last cave biome ever added. There's still untapped potential there. I have a few ideas, one of which is the Frost Caves. These would generate in colder biomes beneath the surface and would contain allays, giving us a much more consistent supply. However, they would be guarded by isologers, one of the losing mobs from the Caves and Cliffs mob vote. There are other cool ideas for caves which have been posted around the community, including mushroom caves and caves with dead coral that hasn't been submerged for centuries, but the Frost Caves idea is the most important for me. It would give players a reason to go to colder biomes, and would make allays and isologers cemented in the game. Thirdly, Mud needs some updates. A texture change would be good, and I think it would be great if it, and maybe Honey blocks too, could hold gravity-affected blocks like sand and gravel. That would be a massive plus. We could also use some more functionality for echo shards. Perhaps they could craft an item which opens the portal, or whatever it is in the ancient cities. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do hope the portal is a portal to another dimension. Although the end should be updated first, I think a new dimension would be much healthier for Minecraft's progress than a fast travel system, which is the other proposed theory. I wouldn't be against a fast travel system necessarily, but it would need to have a sizable downside other than the rarity of the city, perhaps draining XP or requiring a special unfarmable item to use. Birch forests and fireflies need to be reconsidered. I want them, we want them. If fireflies don't fit Mojang's education policy, then it's up to them to amend a policy that stops good and interesting features from making it into the game. Minecraft is just that, a game, not a learning tool. That's Education Edition. Birch forests should definitely be added soon, but they somewhat missed their theming with the concept of a wild update. They would have been such a good fit. Bundles will come along at some point, I'm sure, and I might say more about them then. As for 1.20, I think it should be a slightly smaller update. The updates have been very content heavy recently, which is great, but Caves and Cliffs made a mistake by overstepping the limit of what could be done, forcing the devs to split it in two. This update also had some cancelled features, and I feel the team tried to get it out a bit too quick. A small update would allow Mojang to take stock and prepare for the future. I think 1.20 might benefit from being similar to 1.15, with a central feature like bees, which provides enough content to keep the Minecraft community satisfied until 1.21, which could then revert to scope and scale. We'll see very soon what the devs have planned, but suffice to say, it is an exciting time to be a Minecraft fan. The future of Minecraft is uncertain, but one thing is fairly clear to me. There will come a point, probably in the next 3 or 4 years, where Minecraft will inevitably begin to decline in popularity again. The devs need to be ready for this, and try to retain as much of the player base as they can. I don't think Minecraft will die because of this decline. It's been brought back from the dead before and can do it again, but if the content doesn't have enough depth for YouTubers and individual play, the ecosystem of the game will lose one of its pillars and the whole structure will be much more likely to crumble. For now, the thing for Mojang to do is to consolidate and improve older features and to work towards progress on newer ones, riding the line between update scale and update possibility. Minecraft treads a fine line, but with updates like 1.19, I think it can keep its balance just a little longer. Wow, that took a lot of work to make, and I hope you enjoyed it. For those of you who don't know, on this channel I'm making a series called 1K, 1 Life, a survival let's play with a twist. So if you haven't already, check that out and consider subscribing. I release a video every week or every fortnight, so be prepared to see plenty more of that. I'm going to be starting another series in the foreseeable future, as well as making another one-off video. Next video, however, will be the second episode of 1K1 Life. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.